Hey, Dina here. Welcome to my weight loss journey. I want to say channel, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to put this on YouTube. Certainly not my main channel. This is a little more personal life stuff, and it just doesn't really belong on my channel where I talk about video games and horror movies. Also, I don't even think this is going to go on YouTube. I haven't decided where to put it yet. At the time I'm recording this, I actually haven't even made the account that I'm going to put it on. But since I'm starting a new channel or whatever for this subject, I wanted to do kind of an intro video where I just sort of talked about like where I'm coming from and where I'm at, I guess. Maybe where I'm at will be a later video, but I just kind of want to talk about my history with dieting. I guess I'll just get right into that. When I was a kid, my mom used to try to get me to lose weight. I was heavy when I was a kid. I wasn't like super heavy, but I was heavy, and my mom was always trying to get me to lose weight, and I was just not. Like, what kid wants to do what their parents tell them to do, right? So I didn't really care. I didn't care how I looked or anything. I was such a tomboy. I didn't really care how I looked, and you know, it was just kind of one of those, for me, it was just one of those annoying things that your parents make you do and you don't really understand why you're supposed to do it. You just, you know. It wasn't until I got a bit older, I was still living with my mom. Oh, you know what it was? It was because I wanted to, I was big into cosplay at the time, and I wanted to cosplay as Xena. So there you go. It was my, I guess, inspiration, for lack of a better word. My original inspiration for weight loss was that I wanted to cosplay as Xena. So my mom used to go on the cabbage soup diet, and I started doing that, and I actually lost quite a bit of weight doing that, like 20 pounds. At that point, okay, so I don't normally do this, but this is its own channel, whatever. I'll go ahead and actually reveal my weight. I don't normally like to say my weight, but for the purposes of this, why not? Like, it'd be kind of weird not to, I think. I've always been in the 200 range, like between 220, 230, somewhere in there. I don't remember how much I was before I started losing weight to cosplay as Xena. It sounds so silly saying it out loud, but you know, whatever. I was probably in the 220s, and I got down to just a hair under 200. That was the lowest I had ever been at the time. And yeah, I actually did cosplay as Xena while weighing 200 pounds. I thought I looked pretty good, all things considered, even though the pictures didn't turn out great. And no, I'm not going to show them. I actually don't even know where they are. This was back in like 2000. So yeah, I didn't really know how to lose weight back then. I was doing things like going on the cabbage soup diet every other week, and oh my God, I may do another video later on where I talk about that diet, because it's an experience, man. If you've never been on the cabbage soup diet, for one thing, you're lucky. But yeah, it's rough, but it's interesting. And granted, this was post 2000s, but I was still in that kind of 80s and 90s mentality of low fat. So I would try to lose weight by just cutting down on the fat, and oh, I won't eat too much meat. And it just never really worked for long periods of time. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was really stubborn about keeping sugar in my diet, because one thing I like is coffee in the morning. I like my coffee to be very sweet, and I would just blow through my entire, well, later on when I would go on a low-carb diet, I would blow through my entire day's worth of carbs on my fucking morning cup of coffee. Took a little while to get out of that habit, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, for the longest time, I just didn't know what to do. At my highest, and I hope nobody is offended, when I say highest, I mean for me. I don't judge anyone else based on their weight. I only judge myself based on my own weight, which, you know, that's maybe a thing to unpack, but it's a thing. And at my highest weight, I was 245 pounds. And for me, that's a lot. That was the highest I'd ever been. and I thought, oh my God, I am nearly 250, and that means I'm not that far from 300. I need to do something. If that's your weight, I'm not judging you. That's not what this is about. I'm saying numbers, but it's how the numbers reflect on me, if that makes any sense. Please don't be offended, though, if you happen to be the weight that I was complaining about being, or, you know. So that was when I started to get a little more serious about losing weight. I still didn't know how. I went on this Weight Watchers inspired one, and once again, I lost 20 to 30 pounds on it. I was doing really good, but it was kind of this dumb diet where it's like, oh, for a snack, you can have low-fat Cool Whip on a low-fat, you know, graham crackers, like for a snack. And I'm like, and I look back on that and cringe. But yeah, a lot of diets back then were kind of like high sugar and low fat, and that's so backwards to me now. But anyway, that was then. I was living in Memphis at the time, and I'm not going to go into my own personal stuff too much. But yeah, this was when I was 30, so almost 20 years ago. So yeah, we're still talking like early 2000s. The thing that helped me a lot with weight loss was that I watched a documentary called Fathead, and the guy who made it, I don't recommend looking into his personal politics. I don't agree with a lot of what he says outside of what he said in that video, but it really got me thinking about how the weight loss industry tends to really villainize fat, consuming fat, that is. And, you know, and it encourages eating a lot of wheat, and that's really weird. And it just like, I basically started off as a low-carb diet, ended up being the paleo diet. And the paleo diet is keeping your food as natural as you can. Ideally, you're supposed to eat grass-fed beef, but like I can afford that. I did kind of a dirtier version of it. So I was eating a lot of meat. Honestly, wasn't eating that many vegetables. I would eat a lot of meat and cheese and eggs, a lot of high-fat stuff, and the weight came off so easily, it was ridiculous. I dropped something like, well, I don't remember what weight I was at when I started paleo, but probably still a little over 200. I got eventually down to about 180 and then 170. It felt so easy. And I was eating all these foods I loved, like cheese. I'd been avoiding cheese for so much of my life, and I love that shit. Cheese and butter and all that good stuff. And I was also, you know, going for walks. This was at a time when I was working at a full-time job, and I used to go for walks during my breaks, both of my breaks, my morning and my afternoon breaks. And I'd go for like 2 15-minute walks, I think. And, you know, so there was that. There was the walking and the low-carb diet. At this point, I think I was putting Splenda in my coffee, and what I was doing was trying to just sort of like get rid of my sweet tooth as best I could. And it did work. I got to the point where I was putting stevia in my not stevia, I don't think that had even been invented yet. I was putting Splenda in my coffee and getting used to having my coffee a lot less sweet, and that helped a lot. And I was basically not consuming any sugar most of the time. You know, the occasional carbs, but I was, you know, sugar-free stuff. Not too much sugar-free stuff. I was on a budget back then, and I couldn't really afford, you know, special diet food. I was just doing low carb and trying to eat as clean as I reasonably could. So that helped a lot. And then I hit a plateau around the same time that we had to move, and we were living in a hotel, and I just couldn't afford low carb food as much because carby foods are a lot cheaper. We were living on ramen for a while, and I managed to not let my weight get up too high. And I was basically off of paleo then, and I never totally went back on. This was 15-ish years ago, I think. And then for a while there, I was doing pretty well in the sense that I wasn't losing anymore, but I wasn't gaining either. I was not down to the weight I wanted to be at. I was probably down to about 180-ish around this time, 180, 170, somewhere in that range. And I got to a point where at least I was keeping it in that range for a while. I wasn't losing. Losing was difficult. I had a lot going on and I didn't have my full-time job anymore, so it was harder getting myself to work out. It's easier to get yourself to get away from your work desk in the middle of the day. It's a little harder to get out of your comfy home and go for a walk. At least for me it is. So it was harder to work out then, and it was harder to eat healthy, but I still managed to keep it in that range. And then I didn't lose any weight for a long time. In fact, I think I probably gained some for a bit. And then I got to where I was losing again. I'm trying to remember where I was. We're getting close to 2020 at this point, and I was really trying to lose weight again by this point. I was trying to do the low carb thing. It wasn't working as well as I had hoped. Again, though, I wasn't really able to exercise too much. I forgot to mention, this is jumping back slightly, but I did eventually discover DDP yoga. If you'd never heard of DDP yoga, it's a variation of yoga created by former wrestler Diamond Dallas Page, and it's amazing. I love DDP yoga. I will probably get into that again in another video, but that's what that is. I was trying to do that for a while, and I was actually starting to lose weight again. Not as much as I would have wanted. I think the lowest I got down to was still probably in the 170s by this point. And then lockdown happened. This isn't going quite where you think it is, although maybe eventually it will. During lockdown in May, I'm pretty sure it was May of 2020, I was going to work one day, and just like a few blocks from my house, I look away. I look, away from the road to look at the speed limit sign. I look back and there's this freaking car coming at me. They were driving on the wrong side of the road. I didn't have time to react properly. I slammed my foot on the brake. My foot was still on the brake when the impact happened, and it snapped my ankle in two. Later, I heard that that's actually kind of a common thing that can happen that nobody ever talks about for some reason, but it happened to me. I actually did a whole video about that whole situation and my recovery and all of that. I will post a link. It's on my main YouTube channel. I don't normally talk about personal things on there too much, but that was kind of a big deal because it set me way back with making videos for a while. Anyway, I broke my ankle, couldn't work out. It was difficult to eat healthy. Believe it or not, I did not gain weight while my ankle was broken. I don't know if it's because, for one thing, I was sleeping a lot, and I don't know if that was due to the medication I was taking or just because I didn't have anything else to do. And again, the medication, I think it made it so that I didn't have much of an appetite. So my husband learned to make scrambled eggs because of this. So I would have, scrambled eggs and cheese for breakfast, and this was during a time when I had stopped drinking coffee. That's yet another thing I can maybe make another video about. I am back on coffee now, by the way, for better or for worse. So I was having scrambled eggs and cheese for breakfast. I wasn't really hungry during lunch. My husband kind of convinced me to at least eat a snack, so I would eat something like almonds and cheese cubes for lunch. And dinner would just be whatever. My husband would pop a frozen dinner in the microwave, or we would order pizza or Chinese food or something. We tried not to do that too often, but yeah. As a general rule, my husband does not cook. So I think just 90% do, because I wasn't really able to exercise. There were some DDP yoga exercises that you can do from a chair, and I was doing those. But yeah, I actually lost weight while my ankle was broken, and I got down somewhere into the 160s. I wish I could remember the exact number. I feel like maybe at one point I was briefly down to literally 160, but I feel like I'm not entirely sure. I think I was in the 160 range more like, but I'm not, it's hard to remember. So here's what happened during lockdown. So I got a really good settlement because of my injury from my insurance, and I just decided to take the rest of the year off from work. I had a really shitty job at the time, and I was looking for any excuse not to get back to it. Also, you have to take stairs to get into the building, and it's very hard to get upstairs when you have a broken ankle, even when you're able to use a walker, which I was able to use a walker at one point. But so yeah, my ankle got better. I started watching those baking competition shows like Holiday Baking Championship and all that, and I really got into it. And I'm like, I remembered how I used to love baking when I was a kid, and I was watching this show and I'm like, I wonder if I missed my calling. Maybe I should have been a baker. And it just sort of inspired me to start baking again. And again, this was during lockdown with just my husband and me in the house. I was not able to, we weren't in physical contact with anyone else at the time. I couldn't like visit my mom or anything. Just, I was making these desserts. I'm good at it, by the way. I can make some really beautiful looking cakes. I made some like Undertale cookies. Like, I made some really good stuff. I'm actually kind of proud of my baking game. My baking game is on point, as the kids say. But yeah, I was baking all these goodies. We were eating all of them. The next thing I know, I've shot back up over 200 pounds. And that was not a good time, man. I don't know what happened there. I guess because I was just in that 170 range for so long, I think I felt invincible. Like, that's where my weight was going to be for the rest of my life. And I don't know, it was very dumb. I just wasn't weighing myself. I wasn't paying attention to what I was eating. But I got back over 200 pounds, and that sucked. So since then, I've been trying to, off and on with the low carb diets and such. And just before March, I should mention, after lockdown, I got another job, which is the job I'm currently working at. I'm kind of buddies with one of my coworkers, and she was talking about how she wanted to do keto. And she was talking about how, the best way to do it is to just like do super strict keto for 2 weeks, just to like, get all of the bad stuff out of your system and get used to it. And then you can, add a little bit of carbs back in, but for those first 2 weeks, you got to be really strict. March 1st, we started doing super strict keto, and wow, the weight came off. Once again, the weight came off so easily, but here's the problem. How long ago was this? I know I'm jumping back and forth in time a little bit, but I got to tell this story in a way that it makes sense. Between 5 and 10 years ago, I had my gallbladder out. I was having gallstones, and that was awful. But yeah, I had my gallbladder out, and I found out the hard way that doing keto without a gallbladder is like doing it on hard mode. Some people, I'm gonna try not to get too graphic, but I gotta be honest. Part of the reason I'm sharing all this is I kind of hope it can maybe help somebody. Here's the thing about when you don't have a gallbladder. One of two things can happen. You can either have too little bile in your stomach, which is the more common one, or too much bile. Too little bile means results in constipation. Too much bile results in diarrhea. I apparently have too much bile. So all the food I was eating was going right through me. I'm sure that helped with the freaking weight loss. I do not recommend doing that intentionally. I hope I don't need to tell anybody this, but yeah, don't take laxative to lose weight. I can't imagine that being healthy. So that was awful. I found out the hard way I need to add fiber to my diet. Another thing that happened was right at the end. Actually, what happened was we were both kind of trying to figure it out. We were stumbling through it, and we got together and decided, okay, we were only supposed to do 2 weeks. We're going to do 1 more week of strict keto. At the end of the second week, I'm pretty sure I got what they call keto flu. I just woke up one morning feeling absolutely crappy. I was more dehydrated than I had ever been in my life. Like I have, I tend to be dehydrated in the morning. The first thing I do is put on lip balm, but like my lips were so dehydrated, they were all wrinkly and it was awful. I felt so bad. And I had brain fog and I read somewhere that consuming fat is good for keto flu. So I ate a fat bomb that I had made and it just gave me really bad diarrhea again. So that was awful. And I realized I can't really do super strict keto. At least that was how I felt at the time. I may revisit it someday, but at that point I decided that I was not going to do super strict keto anymore for a while at least. And I added some carbs back in my diet. I was still losing weight at a pretty good rate. I was losing like 2 pounds a week, which is good. That's like the most you can lose per week and have it be still healthy. So I was still doing pretty good adding a few more carbs back into my diet. The trick about if you have too much bile, the trick is to include fiber with every single meal. If you're going to eat something fatty, you also got to eat something with fiber. At this point, I started adding keto bread to my diet. I hadn't touched bread in weeks at the time, and I was so happy to have bread back in my diet. One of these days I'll talk about what I eat regularly, but for now let's just stick to that. And the great thing about keto food, like keto bread products, is that it's got lower carbs and it's got a lot of fiber. So that diarrhea issue is mostly gone. It still pops up once in a while if I've not eaten quite right. But yeah, I've basically solved that issue. I just need to eat a lot of fiber. Fortunately, I love avocados, and those have a lot of fiber along with healthy fat. And I always try to include lettuce in my diets. Even though like it comes up on MyFitnessPal as having almost no fiber, it still helps me, or it seems to. So even just like iceberg lettuce and romaine lettuce, like if I'm having a bunless burger and some fries for dinner, I'll include some lettuce. Like it doesn't add anything. It adds almost nothing to the macros or whatever, but it seems to help with my stomach issues. So there we go. So that's kind of where I'm at now. What I didn't mention is that when I started that keto diet on March 1st, I was 208.2 pounds. I have since lost roughly 30 pounds. I think I'm at 177, so just a hair over 30 pounds. So that's awesome. I was hoping to lose 50 pounds by the end of September, but at the time I'm recording this, it's August 2nd. That's not gonna happen. I would have to lose something like 3 or 4 pounds per week, and I'm past the point where I think I can do that. In the earlier days of the diet, I could have done that, but not now. So, once again, I'll do more videos in the future where I get into more details about these things, but I'm working out definitely 3 days a week. I work from home 3 days a week, and those days I work out during my lunch break almost as a force of habit. I almost don't even think about it. I do some kind of DDP yoga exercise during my lunch breaks 3 days a week. Those other days are a little harder to get the workouts in. The days where I work in the office, my coworkers, I go for walks with my coworkers when the weather permitting. So there is that. I do get at least a little exercise on the days when I'm in the office. I try to get in the habit of doing some short little DDPY workout after I get home from the office, but that's kind of hard to get myself to do. And Saturdays, it's hard to do it because I stream then, but if I can get myself to do it before the stream, I'm good. Sunday is my day off from working out because that's when I do all of my chores. So, yeah. So that's where I'm at. My diet's in a pretty good place. I'm working out a lot. I'm working out so much, I'm actually getting some muscle tone in my arms, which is pretty cool. I want to eventually, my goal, here's the thing. In 2 weeks, I am going to turn 49. Well, 2 weeks as of when I'm recording this. I don't know when this is going to go up, but August 17th. I'm going to turn 49, and I realized, wow, next year I'm going to turn 50. And just it lit a fire under my ass. That was kind of what started the keto thing earlier this year. That just kind of lit a fire under my ass, and I'm like, I want to try my damnedest to get down to whatever my ideal weight is. I don't know what that is. I did a quick Google search, and I found one of those calculators, and I put all my info into it, my height, my gender, my age. And it said, it gave me a range, but I decided to pick the number that I want to aim for is 130 pounds. I want to get down to 130 pounds by August 17th of 2025. So we'll just see how that goes. It should be very doable. Like if I lose a pound per week on average, I should be able to do that. I have also decided, I've always had really weak upper body strength, and I've decided I want to get stronger too. So with all of the working out I'm doing and how my arms are actually getting I'm actually getting some muscle tone in my arms, I might not be able to get down to 130. It might be like with the muscle I develop, I might not be able to get that low. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But I like having a number to aim for, even if I can always change my mind, you know? So I think it's time to wrap up. I have been recording for about 31 minutes, which isn't that bad. I thought telling my whole life story about weight loss would take me at least an hour, but I did leave out some details where I could have gone into a little more detail. But so that's roughly where I'm at right now. I don't know how often I'm going to make videos, but I like the idea of just like pulling out my phone and filming a video while I'm out walking or doing stuff. That's a thing I've seen a lot of people do on TikTok, and as a concept, it's kind of grown on me. I don't know how often I would do it. If I could put out weekly videos, that'd be really cool. Just little short ones. I might not even edit them. So just to let you know, you're probably not watching this video because you care what I look like, but just for the record, I put a little bit of makeup on, you know, to kind of ease into this, but I'm probably not going to be wearing makeup in the later videos, so I'm not always going to look cute. That's just how it's going to be. Hopefully you're not here because you care about that anyway, but I just felt like saying it. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up. Like I said, I don't even know where I'm going to upload this video to, but my husband's at a ball game, and it was like the perfect time to sit down and record my first video. Getting the first video out of the way was kind of daunting. So I wanted to get that out of the way. I may actually record more videos sitting on my chair if he goes to more ball games. Hopefully the weather will cool down and he will be doing that, and I'll have some time to myself to do stuff like this more. Thanks for watching. I hope I actually stay committed to making these videos, and I think it'd be interesting to talk about my situation and my journey, and I hope it helps people, and you know, and I would love it if I could build a little community around this, and other people can help me maybe. So yeah, feel free to post a comment or whatever. Again, I don't know where I'm going to post this, but feel free to post a comment, asking questions, making comments, whatever, as long as it's not mean. I guess that's it for now. See you next time.